Is the death penalty scriptural? I want to talk about this because the Pope just tweeted today that we should pray to end the death penalty. Even though I respect the Pope for being the Bishop of Rome, I believe he's completely wrong about the death penalty. Why? Because God himself established the death penalty right after the flood of Noah. He says in Genesis 9:6, whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God has God made man. You see, not only does the death penalty help us try to stop murder, but it also affirms life. In other words, the death penalty is pro-life of the human being whose life was taken by a murderer. People will say to me, you know, you're against abortion, but you're for the death penalty. You're inconsistent. No, the death penalty, according to Genesis 9:6, is a pro-life action. Why? We don't kill a person who kills an animal. We don't execute them. Why? Because animals are not made in God's image. But what God is saying is because human beings are valuable and they're made in the eternal image of God. If someone intentionally takes that life, then human beings may have right to take that person's life, the death penalty. So in other words, the death penalty is a pro-life action. Not only does God establish the death penalty after the flood of Noah, but the Levitical law, which is holy, righteous, and good, also establishes it. We won't take time to give examples of that. But what about our Lord Jesus Christ? Did you know he affirmed the death penalty? When Jesus gave the parable about the son of the king who was killed by the tenants, Jesus said, when the king arrives, what is he going to do with those who murdered his son? And the crowd cried out, Matthew 21:41, he will bring those wretches to a wretched end. In other words, the point of Jesus' parable is that these tenants deserve to die. And yet, Jesus affirmed it. But not only did Jesus affirm the death penalty in one of his parables, but the Apostle Paul, New Testament, affirmed the rightness of the death penalty. He stands before Festus, the governor, and he says in Acts 25:12, if I am guilty of doing anything deserving of death, I do not refuse to die. The Apostle Paul, the New Testament preacher of grace, affirmed the rightness of the death penalty. And he says, if I'm deserving to die, in other words, I deserve it. So the death penalty is scriptural because it affirms the importance of the life of an individual, and it affirms righteousness as well. The death penalty is scriptural.